The slug was ready to go because she's attracted by the yeast that is inside the trap. So those fish, they can't live one day if the water parameters are outside of their range. I am gone for my morning run, but I just want to take a few seconds to show you. It's a very nice sky. Every morning it's nice, and every morning I take the time to enjoy the beauty of nature. I have the feeling that a lot of people see aquaponics as a magic tool. And for instance, they think it's like an iPhone. You have the iPhone and you want to take a picture and you push a button. You want to take a video, you push a button. And the tool is doing everything for you. Yeah, the cascade is on there. But that's not how it works. If you have an iPhone, you don't know how the iPhone works, and the only thing you need to do is to plug the battery, to charge the battery, right? And the device is working. Here in aquaponics, we are not working with such device, we are working with an ecosystem. And while everything is working together, we need to maintain the system in good conditions. And we need to design it properly. Imagine an iPhone. Even if you have all the components of the iPhone, if you don't assemble them properly, the iPhone is never going to work. And every component needs to match with the others. So you can't just expect to build an aquaponics without any knowledge, and the setup is going to work, is going to produce. For me, the biggest problem is that a lot of people start aquaponics, they don't have any knowledge, and that's fine, you know, we can all learn, but a lot of people, they don't want to learn. That's the issue. They just want to put two pieces of plastic together in their backyard, and they expect it to produce food. They don't even know how food is produced, they don't even know how food is grown. And really, it's not an issue if you don't know how food is produced. That's something that can be learned. It's not a problem at all. However, you need to be willing to learn. You cannot just have this at the back of your house, on your backyard, and expect it to produce for you if you don't want to learn how it works. And again, the quantity of effort that we put in aquaponics is very limited. Almost none. Let's feed the fish, okay? You see, for me, feeding the fish is definitely not an effort. It's a passion. But if you don't care about the aquaponics system, it's for you. If for you it's painful to go and to do what I am doing now, because I enjoy it, there is no point, you know. If you don't enjoy the journey, don't bother. That's what I would say. This type of thing is like for people who like gardening. People who like gardening, they enjoy being in the garden. Aquaponics is the same thing. You enjoy having the setup around, you enjoy having a pond, you enjoy having the plants around. It's not a chore to take care of your system, right? To feed your fish. It's like if you have a dog. Is it a problem for you? Is it painful? Does it take energy of you to feed your dog? Well, I think if you like the dog, if you love the dog, you enjoy when the dog enjoys. And if you like the aquaponics system, if you like to have an ecosystem in your backyard, if you like nature, you reconnect. And when I feed my fish, I feel happy because I take care of them, and I know they enjoy that. So that's mistake number one, is that people go into aquaponics. Some people, that they don't put the effort to learn about it, and they don't really want to learn about it. And learning about it can be really fun. Again, it's not an effort when you like it. When you like it, learning about aquaponics is like growing your skills, you know. You like to improve yourself, and you like to learn more about nature. Learning about fish, learning about plants, and learning about bacteria. For me, it's a passion. I am fascinated by it, and I guess if you don't have the smallest interests about the three elements, you should probably not start aquaponics. So that's one of the biggest mistakes, is to not be willing to learn and just expecting it to produce like you think you will be able to build an aquaponic system if you don't take the time to learn. I don't think it's going to work, right? If you don't know what you are doing, and if you don't want to learn about what you are doing, there is no way it will work. The second point is that, and that's not something that is aquaponics enthusiast's fault, but it's the issue of the current system that we live in. You know, we live in this society where we buy something, we throw it away. We buy cheap things and we throw them away. And very often, you know, now everything, a lot of gadgets, a lot of widgets are imported from China or other countries, right? Plastic things. And they work for a few months and then they are broken. And then we throw them away and we buy another one. So we are in this consumption phases. Consumption society of consumption. The more you consume and the better people feel, it seems like. For me, that's basically the opposite. I don't really enjoy buying things. I don't really take much pleasure. Of course, sometimes you like to buy good quality things sometimes, but you know, I'm not the kind of person who like to spend time in the shop and feel good when they buy something. I prefer building my own things. I prefer growing my own food, and I prefer experiencing things. You know, I spend my money in experiences, in trainings, in learning things more than owning things that are kind of useless. You know, a lot of people, they spend their money to buy things that they don't really need and they don't really like, and just to impress the neighbor that they don't even like. So it's quite sad. So to go back to aquaponics, one problem that I see very often as well is that now if you go online and if you look for aquaponics, and people who want to start, they don't want to spend too much money, so they sometimes buy those little plastic aquaponics that are very, very small. You know, so they are called sometimes mini aquaponics or kitchen bench aquaponics, whatever. And they are those tiny things, you know, they are little aquarium, like sometimes 50 liters or even less, with a mini grow bed on the top, which is sometimes just 2 pots of herbs, whatever. Let me tell you that those systems, they are not designed to work, right? They have never been working, they will never work. If you're able to maintain your fish alive into it for a few months, you are lucky. That's all I can say. You know, you can't expect to grow anything really substantial and sustainable in those type of setups. And the reason why they don't work is because in any aquaponic system we have a balance to have, right, between the things. They realize that it's a lot of work, it's not producing anything, and very often they kill the fish and they stop aquaponics altogether, and then they think that it doesn't work just because they started with the wrong model. And the harder it will be. So in a system like mine, in front, you know, this one that we have in front of us today, we have a few thousand liters of water. And so even if today I make a mistake, it will be corrected by the whole mass of the system. So if one day I overfeed the fish, I have too many fish, if I make any mistake, the mass of the system will absorb it and it will not create a big variation into the water quality. However, if the system is very small, the slightest mistake you make or the slightest variation you have into the way you maintain the system, and the impact is going to be huge on the water quality. So the larger the system and the more sustainable it is and the less maintenance it needs. That's very strange, right? That's awkward to say. But in terms of frequency, it doesn't require much maintenance, while a small system will require way more technicity. And a very small system, such as a 50 liters aquaponic system, as we see sometimes online, those systems, they are definitely not working. They are not designed to work. And the only purpose of the system is to generate profit for people who sell it. And I think that's a big problem. You know, when you sell something, you should believe in what you sell. You should use it yourself. And, you know, making money on plastic things that are going to finish in the bin after a few months, I don't think it's ethical, right? So yes, of course, there are some non-ethical people on the planet. But the problem is they are destroying the dreams of all those aquaponics enthusiasts who want to try, and after a month into the thing, they realize that it's a lot of work, it's not producing anything, and very often they kill the fish and they stop aquaponics altogether, and then they think that it doesn't work just because they started with the wrong model. So that's something that I really, I'm very upset about. Because again, for me, aquaponics is one way, right, to produce your own food. You can have also a few chicken in your backyard, and that's really good. And for me, it's not one or the other. I think we can have everything together, and you can use the waste of one system to feed the other. You know, like sometimes if I eat a fish, I can use the fish waste, you know, the fish offcuts, to give to my chicken, but also all the plants that I grow around. There are some that I clean, I consume, some that I don't consume, I give to the chicken. All the pests that I can capture, when I say pests, you know, I'm talking about the slugs, I'm talking about caterpillars, whatever that is growing around. If I can pick some, I will give it to my chicken. And that's how it works, right? We use some parts of one system to feed another system. Also in aquaponics, sometimes you may have too many fish, and you may produce too much nitrate, which is a nutrient for the plant. You may produce more than the plant that you have in the system can absorb. In this case, it's very smart to use a bit of water from the aquaponic system to water your classic garden. It's going to be a good source of water, but it's going to be also a source of nutrients. So when you do that, you move the nutrient to your classic garden, so you boost your garden. In the same time, you can add new water in your aquaponic system and you dilute the concentration, so you purify the water again. So all those interactions that you can have between one system and the other, they are very beneficial. So I think when people try aquaponics and they don't succeed at the first time, it's never their fault, right? It's always because they haven't done things right, but sometimes, very often, they don't know what they are doing. It's because they are not following the good advice very often. So it's a big shame to see people stopping while actually they are on the good direction. It's just that they don't have the good tool or they don't have the good knowledge. And that's actually the reason why I created the business Aquaponics Revolution. Because at the beginning, I had a business called Melbourne Aquaponics, and I still have it. But in this business, I only offer aquaponics systems that are already made. But with Aquaponics Revolution, what I offer is my expertise to help anyone to learn aquaponics. And with Aquaponics Revolution, I offer trainings to build your own aquaponics system with the good, the good dimensions, the good ratio, the good technique, basically. I have step-by-step trainings to build different types of aquaponics systems. I have a training to build this aquaponics system that is called the Holistic Aquaponics. And I have other trainings where I just teach how aquaponics works and what are the principles, so then you can build the system that you want. Or I have another training where I help people to build their off-ground aquaponics system, so step by step to build a wooden aquaponics system. So there are ways, to learn aquaponics. I also shared a lot of information online. A lot of YouTube videos to teach the basics of aquaponics. But the worst thing you can do if you want to start aquaponics is to buy one of those small aquaponics systems, or to start without being ready, without having the knowledge. Because that's how you kill your dreams. And that's how a lot of people start, because they think it's magical. They think once they have fish and plants together, aquaponics is done and nature is going to do the trick. But they forget that there are some ratio to respect, and there are not only fish and plants. In the middle you have bacteria, and you need to have the perfect environment for your bacteria. So it's not tricky, right? There are just some very important rules to respect when you design a system. Once we understand this, then we can produce. One of the other big mistakes that I see that, again, people start without the good knowledge. And they may do something, they may gather some information online, and they think they have enough information to build the setup. And when they build the aquaponics system, they make mistakes in the design. And the system is still running, but it's not efficient. So what's happening is that they consume a lot of power to produce a very few quantity of food. For instance, a few weeks ago, I went to see one of people who buy fish food from me, because I also offer fish food. And he told me he was stopping aquaponics. And I asked him what was the problem, and I went to see him, and I saw the setup, and I couldn't believe my eyes, what I saw. And again, I'm not picking on this guy, very nice gentleman. And really someone who is very interested in nature, he's got chicken as well, he's got a nice backyard with lots of fruit trees, and really want to do the right thing, right? But the setup was composed of a huge tank, right? A tank that was probably 3,000 liters of water with fish inside, and a water pump that was probably pumping 10,000 liters per hour or more. Probably more than that, like a huge water pump. And the quantity of grow bed this guy had the equivalent of maybe, those blue tunnels, like he probably had 100 liters of media, so 100 liters of grow bed. And if you don't know aquaponics, it may not talk to you. But if you have followed any of my trainings, if you have your own aquaponics system that is efficient following my recommendation, you understand that this is completely undersized. The size of the grow bed compared to the size of the tank. So this guy was running a huge water pump produce nothing basically. And of course he had a big tank, but because he had such a small grow bed, he was not able to grow much fish at all, almost any fish. So he had the system running for 4 years. I can't imagine the quantity of power that this guy used. If only had followed any of my training, or followed maybe someone training, I don't know, but if only he had dimensioned the system properly, he would have been able to produce way more food and consume way less power. But in his instance, he had a system that was completely working against nature. So I'm very glad this guy stopped. But that would have been much better if he just designed the system differently. But now he doesn't believe in aquaponics any longer. He never saw this system, and he never saw any of my systems really. He just ran with whatever he was doing. He thought he was doing things right, and after a while, of course, he realized that what he was doing was not efficient, and he stopped aquaponics altogether. So if you are in this condition, if you are in this case, you don't have to stop aquaponics, right? You can just modify your system to make something. You can start from something that is not super efficient, and you can make it very efficient. You just have to twist things to improve the system. It's really possible, to make something sustainable that produces a lot of food. And something that looked good as well, because this guy, what he had in his backyard was this huge tank that was off ground, that was plastic, and around he had those blue, the blue barrels that were cut with bell siphons that were not working. And all this was plastic, not producing anything. Or at least not much at all. So that was just looking awful. And that was very painful for him. Because he spent lots of, he spent a decent money, for this water pump, for this tank of ground. With probably a fraction of the investment, he could have had something such as I have in front of me, producing a lot of food without any effort, and something that really enhanced his backyard instead of something that looked very plastic and very ugly, and decrease the quality, the harmony in the backyard is broken when you have plastic around. You know what I do in the morning? I go for a run. I go for a run around, because for me life is movement. So I need to move. Everything needs to move, right? All living creatures, they need to, not all, but yeah, all humans at least, they need to move to feel alive, to feel connected. I run, then I meditate around this pond. And sometimes when I do that, it's run. But I don't mind, I am outside and I'm good, and I feel connected. And I really like those plants when it's raining, because it reminds me of the tropical forest, Like I feel like I am in Cairns. And I enjoy that. It's quite nice. So, that's most of the mistakes that I see. And another mistake that is very frequent is that a lot of people believe that aquaponics doesn't produce any food, because they believe that you can't keep the fish alive, because they themselves kill the fish. And it's very easy to understand that. If you begin in aquaponics and you don't have any knowledge into water quality, water parameters, and really it's not hard to learn, right? I can teach this in my trainings in a few hours. But if you don't have access to this training, if you don't know about water quality, one of the big problems is that you may start aquaponics and you may believe you get it, you understand how it works, and you may put an aquaponics system together and you start to produce food. And you have your fish. The fish, they take a while to reach plate size. So here we have trout, and trout are one of the most efficient fish to have to grow. They can grow to plate size in just a few months. Let's say probably we can probably get them to plate size in 6 months. But for other fish, if you go silver perch, for instance, in Australia, or any other type of fish around the planet, very often it can take more time. Tilapia is also a very efficient fish, it grows very fast, but if you grow in a cold area, such as I do here, it may take way more time. So, if you have to keep the fish for years before you can consume them, then you need to make sure that for those years you will not make any mistake into the water. And if you're a beginner, if you don't know how aquaponics works, and if you don't have any proper training to understand the water parameters, you will probably be facing some issues at one point or another if you don't know how to manage the water, right? You may have one day that is out of the chart. The problem is you got living creatures here. So those fish, they can't live one day if the water parameters are outside of their range, you know? Every species of fish has a limit in terms of tolerance of toxic element into the water. So if we are out of this range, you just need to be out one day, out of the whatever months that you need to grow those fish, and you will kill all your fish. Which means that all your efforts during the last age of the fish, basically, few months or years. If you have silver perch, you can have fish that are 4 years old. They are almost ready for plate size, but you need one mistake one day to lose all your fish and all your efforts. So that's why a lot of people start aquaponics, and unfortunately they end up killing the fish. And because they kill the fish, then they stop. Because they are like, oh, it doesn't work. I killed all the fish, I spent 4 years, I spent 3 years, or I spent months for nothing. You shouldn't go into aquaponics if you don't really have access to a training or understand how the parameters are working. So you know what I will do now? I will oh look, there is a slug on the trap. Can you see it here? The slug was ready to go because she's attracted by the yeast that is inside the trap, right? I showed it to you yesterday. So, oh, I missed this one. What I will do now, I will put this trap, I will give it to the chicken, and I will do a new mix, because I think it's too old, and it still attracts the slugs. As you can see, this one was going inside. But you know, after a week, those slugs that are inside, they start to break down, and it may become disgusting for the slugs, because slugs like to eat yeast and they like to eat vegetables, but they don't like to eat rotten meat. You know, they don't like to eat other slugs. They're not carnivorous. So what I will do, I will give this to my chicken. I will probably like it. I give them very often the result of whatever I harvest here, and generally they are very happy. They say thank you very much, and say tell me. So we will see them, and we'll feed them. So tomorrow I will explain you, I will show you one of the solutions that we have to not make the same mistakes as others are doing, and to successfully start aquaponics. So here you see, yesterday I showed you this lab that I am doing. So you see, last night I did a bit. I did this part here after work. I still have a lot to do, because here I'm just doing a slab for the bottom, but then on top of this I need to give the good slope to match the other the other terrace here. You see the stone here? I need to match this slope, kind of match. So I still have a bit of work to do. Well, it's a nice little project. I like to do those things. So here we are. You can see the shed again. I really like seeing this shed, and you know, this shed was cob work, right? And it was made when I designed the pond. In the same time, I took some of the clay to build this shed. So part of this shed is made out of the clay that was when I digged for the pond. But where I spent the more time was designing the door. You see this door? Took me a little while to make the door, but I'm very proud and I really like this door. It's very nice. I like the shape, I like everything. Okay, let's see the chicken now. Let's see how much they like it. So the problem of them is that there is a bit of water, and I don't want to wet them, so I have to put it around them on the side here. Okay. Now let's see if they pick for the slugs. Yes, they do. And they like it. You see now, they found it and they fight for it almost. So now we will do a new mix. I will show you how I do the mix. So it's very, very simple actually. So here's a secret ingredient. Just take one branch, one stick. You know, I live in Australia, and in Australia Vegemite is one of the most famous, how you can call it, it's kind of dough that you spread on your bread. Personally, I am French and I find it disgusting. But it's just me, right? I'm not saying it is disgusting, but it's not something that I like. It's very, very special, very Australian. So, sorry guys, but I put the wooden stick inside, and of course it means that nobody is gonna eat this one, just for the slugs. But as you can see, I don't take much of it, right? I take a very small quantity. It's raining more and more and more. So you see what I did here, it's not really smart because the slugs, they will be able to come on the side and to feed. I don't want that. I want them to come in contact with the water because that's where they can basically slide and drown in the water. So what I did here is not the smartest thing. So this thing is quite disgusting, right? So then you wash your hands. Not the Vegemite, but because there were some dead slugs inside, so there are probably a lot of bacteria here. So definitely you have to wash your hands after. You know, I'm not the type of person who say wash your hands. I like to be exposed to bacteria. But in this instance here, because we had the organic matter breaking down in a closed environment without any filtration or anything, you probably have some bacteria here, a concentration of bacteria that is very high, and I wouldn't really recommend to put this in your mouth to drink this or whatever, of course. It's kind of disgusting. So wash your hands after doing this. Now the stick is done, I can throw the stick away, and this is good now. I can place this into my grow bed, and I will catch more slugs with it. So you know, when you put it in your grow bed, you just sit it on the grow bed. There is no need to do anything special, to dig a special hole or whatever. You know, you just put it here. You can't see right now, but I will show you. You see, I just put it here. It's sitting on the grow bed. Because the problem we have in aquaponics, here I'm working with big scoria, and the slugs, they are able to feed during the night, and during the day they have plenty of places to hide. There is no way to pick the slugs into this because they hide below the rocks. And so slugs can be a big problem in aquaponics. So with those type of traps, you are able to manage the quantity of slugs that you have in your grow beds and hopefully to limit them. If you don't do that, you will have some troubles to get some nice crop. So no problem for the old crop. Well, it can be a problem, slugs can be a problem, but generally they like the young tender crop. So here you can see, here I have some little crop that is going okay. But if I have too much slugs, they will consume it. So it's better to regulate the quantity of slugs as much as possible. I have no problem sharing with nature. But I don't want to share too much. Okay, so tomorrow we will see how you can start aquaponics successfully and avoid all the mistakes that we see all the time. You know, having such an ecosystem in your backyard is something possible for everyone. But you need to be willing to learn. Not start without having the knowledge. So, see you in the next video. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Bye.